Let's do it. Welcome back to the Gospel, a show that is near and dear to my heart on today, the fantasy football show of the week, one of my favorite pastimes. We've literally been this may be telling our age a little bit, but I'm over 2 decades in the fantasy game now. I started around 2000, 2001. It's about to be 2025. Man, yeah. Ben, how long you been in the game now? About the same?
Nah, I think 15 years,
About
15,
15?
16 years. So I think
Well,
16.
we definitely are seasoned veterans, and we're going to make sure that you finish out your season on top. I am Zay, the fantasy football fiend, and I am with my guy, Young Vander, the fantasy football Nostradamus. How let the people, Young Vander?
What's going on out there?
All right, so let's go ahead and hop right into it. Before we do, make sure you go ahead and you follow us on YouTube at the Gospel STP. Again, that's the Gospel STP. And if you have not followed us on the Facebook group yet, that's the Gospel Sports Truth Facebook group. So when you type in the Gospel Sports Truth, the group will come up. Go ahead and join. You will have access to quite a bit of information, all of your highlights, lowlights sometimes, but you know what's going on in the wonderful world of sports. That is also direct access to having your fantasy questions asked and answered. We're more than happy to do that for you. With that being said, let's go right ahead and hop into it on this evening. This one, it's no surprise. I'm gonna throw it out there anyway. It's the fact that it's a conversation that's the issue for me. And that's the fact that head coach Matt Eberflus came out on Wednesday and indicated that Caleb Williams will remain the Bears starting quarterback. But the thing about that is the statement in its completion said for Sunday's game against the Packers. Right now, everything involving the Bears is kind of in flux. And I may even go as far as saying that if Eberflus wants to attempt to keep his job, he may even make it a point that the other guy in the room may be a little bit better for the QB position. But the fact that it's a conversation at all is definitely something we have to talk about in the wonderful world of fantasy. Go ahead and beat a dead horse for this show. We've been talking about it since the off season. But Caleb, where is he? Where will he be? Is he maybe a buy low in Dynasty? Do you think that it'll get better? What are your general thoughts right now as far as Caleb is concerned?
I mean, I'm cool if you want to buy low in a dynasty league, but I mean, as far as the remainder of this season, you really got no choice but to start him. If you're Eberflus, like, what you gonna do? Who you gonna turn to? For what reason? I mean, this is the number one overall pick. You can't bench him. Like, you just have to take the good with the bad with this one. I mean, it happens. Peyton Manning didn't have a great first season. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it happens. I mean, you just have to just live with the growing pains at this point. Maybe try to work on some, maybe work on some things that you can build on going into next year. But in my opinion, you can't bench him at all. You just have to stay in the fire with him.
A little bit more QB news. Dak Prescott had surgery on Wednesday. This is being put out there as a season ending surgery. It was a partial avulsion of his right hamstring. We're talking about a 4 to 5 month recovery time. So he should be good to go for next year. Sam Darnold dealing with a hand issue. He was limited in practice on Wednesday due to a right hand injury, and that is his throwing hand. So we'll have to see what the lasting effects of that could possibly be. But the fact that he is in practice on Wednesday indicates to me that he will be good to go to start on Sunday at least. Jordan Love logs a full practice on Wednesday. You know, he was coming back from the groin injury. Kirk Cousins listed with a pair of injuries, right elbow and shoulder injury. So he was able to complete his game. Normally, if you can complete the game, you can start the following week. So I'm not seeing anything that indicates that he's going to be in danger of not starting, but he is not at 100%. But who is at this point in the football year? Desmond Ritter, he's going to remain the backup. So we know Desmond Ritter ended up getting picked up by Antonio Pierce and the Las Vegas Raiders. Right now, they're indicating that Gardner Minshew will still remain the starter, and Desmond Ritter will be the backup. Honestly, that's not really revelatory, in my humble opinion. Um, did you think that Ritter was going to come in and possibly be better than Minshew, or is this just kind of par for the course for you?
Nah, man, they got a room full of. I'm just Jags. Let's just say that. I mean,
Yes.
who's Ritter? Who he supposed to be? I mean, not only he didn't do anything when he had his opportunity, but now he's coming in the middle of the season to pick up a new playbook on a team that. Nah, I mean, I think their starting quarterback is in college. So
Joe Flacco is returning to the number two role. Did you think when Flacco was put in as the number one QB that it was going to be for the rest of the season? Or was this just supposed to be a wake up call for Anthony Richardson? Or Flacco had to perform to the level that makes it as such that they can keep Richardson on the bench due to the other aspects that he brings to the game, namely being his running capability? What are we looking at as far as Indy is concerned from the fantasy vein of things?
I mean, initially I thought it was going to be for the remainder of the season, but the reason he got benched, I mean, it was poor play, but I think the whole saying he was tired or whatever took itself out. I think it's more of a disciplinary move. Um, so the
Okay.
guys on the team, they wasn't really feeling that because they're thinking, hell, we all tired. You know what I'm saying? We don't just, especially offensive linemen. You know what I
Right.
mean? So maybe it was more of a disciplinary move. Flacco did went out there and played poorly last week. So again, you got this is a highly invested pick, and you kind of like between the rock and the hard place, you got to play him. Of course, fantasy is going. I don't know, man. I think everybody took a step back. Joshua Downs, who I like, I think he took a step back. Maybe Jonathan Taylor gets a small boost, but I think as far as the pass catches, I think everybody is stepped down.
Yeah, when you have the lowest completion percentage of anyone in the past 20 years, you back in the game, that definitely don't help the wide receivers as much as it does the running back. Trevor Lawrence has already been ruled out for Week 11, and Mac Jones didn't do anything to necessarily, I would say, show that it was not him, but the team that he came from as the reason that he didn't succeed. There wasn't very much going on in the game on last week. And even though Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback that we can say has underperformed, his pass catchers did much better with him than they did with Mac Jones. Are you even still feeling Mac Jones as a fill-in at this point, unless you just have no other option? How are we looking at that? And if Mac Jones or if this Trevor Lawrence injury is long term, how are we looking at the pass catchers?
Well, last week I thought Mac Jones would play a whole lot better. But this is a really smoother matchup he got this week. I ain't gonna say quite easy, but he's playing against Detroit. Um, I mean, overall, it's a good defense, but they will give up a little something at times. Honestly, I think Trevor Lawrence is done. I think he'll end up getting some kind of surgery at the end of the season. I don't think they're really telling the whole story about it. to be
And they
honest.
haven't put him on IR yet, which is also interesting because that would open up a roster spot. So I don't
Yeah.
know if that means he's not quite that hurt or if they're trying to play like it's something that it isn't or what. But
And they have a bye week in week 12, so maybe they're waiting to see whatever,
okay.
you know what I mean? So missing 2 games and then a bye week, that's 3 weeks. And maybe he can return after the bye week. Maybe that's what they're thinking. But I mean, right now he's Mac Jones is pretty much a streaming play. Uh, we really have nowhere else to go. Like myself in a 2 quarterback league, I'm kind of forced to play him. So see what happens.
Another guy that's in a similar situation, Cooper Rush. He was less than desired on last week. Do we think with another week under the helm, another week of practice, another week of kind of getting his footing underneath him, that he will be a little bit better than he was before? Or is this about to be either Trey Lance or Will Greer's job? They brought Will Greer back in as well, job after this week.
Nah, I think he's gonna play a little bit better. They got Houston this week, who can susceptible to giving up offensively. They play Philadelphia, who've been coming on as of late defensively, even in that secondary. Um, with the newly starter, the rookie out of Iowa, that defense is kind of clicking on the back end. So I think Rush usually is not a bad play. He actually played pretty decent. We give an opportunity before, but I think this is a game where they have opportunity to break out. I like Rush more than I like Mac Jones
Okay.
matchup. You know, Houston, Detroit. You compare the defenses, so I would take a Rush over him. But again, man, I mean, what you expect? You really at the bottom of the barrel with these guys. So.
Coach Brian Dabble was non-committal about Daniel Jones as far as the starting quarterback moving forward for the Giants. Do we feel like Daniel Jones on this particular team is every bit as good as Drew Lock could be? Or do we feel like Drew Lock could maybe give a little bit of a boost here or there? Uh, what do you think the ending evaluation will be after their bye, which is this week? Do we see Daniel Jones moving forward? Do we see Drew Lock moving forward? Does it not matter which one of the two it is?
I think we're gonna see Drew Lock, but in all honesty, he's nobody himself. In my opinion, why did they play the other kid? The kid that was had the league in a chokehold for a couple of weeks last year, DeVito. That's a kid I will be playing. Like he's a lot more.
So you think they'll go DeVito's way before they go Lock's way?
No, I think they may go Lock way because he's the second string quarterback. But me personally, why not play DeVito? He's proven that he can win and play well in this league. Drew Lock hasn't really done much.
So let me ask it this way. If you're in a pinch in a 2 QB league, let's say it's a larger league and there are no quarterbacks to speak of, let's say you can only have one or the other, and you're looking at rest of season. Do you pick up Drew Lock or do you pick up DeVito in that Drew Lock's time as the starting quarterback if things go the way that we're looking for them to go, which is there being some type of a shakeup at quarterback? Do we feel like Drew Lock will finish out the rest of the season, or he'll only be in there for 1 or 2 weeks before DeVito picks up and takes over? And if you can only have one roster spot to roster one of the two of them, which direction do you go?
Man, I mean, you really if you only have one, hopefully you can get two and get them both. But if you only got one roster spot, you got to go with the extra starter, which I think is going to be Lock. But I think he's going to be on a shorter leash. I don't think they're going to give him 2 and 3 weeks to go out there and bomb. I think if he go out there, maybe even first half, if they play, I think that's how fast I think he can get pulled. If they go out there and have a bad first half of football, that boy ain't going for it. You're gonna see this kid right here doing this in the game, and I think we'll see DeVito coming in.
we have a couple other um, quarterback situations going on. Jameis Winston is to remain the starter. And we know we're coming off of Jared Goff with the 5 interception game, but it was a win. I don't foresee any changes in Detroit as far as that is concerned. Will Levis 2 touchdowns in his return. Do you think Levis ends up, barring injury, of course, kind of getting it out through the rest of the year, or does Mason Rudolph have an opportunity, depending on gameplay, to kind of sneak back in there?
No, I'm going with Levis. Only injury will get him off the field at this point. I mean, because again, they invested, right? Uh, Rudolph is more journeyman at this point. They invested these early round picks and these quarterbacks, and they got to see what they got to make sure if they need a quarterback in the upcoming draft. So that's why these guys are playing for next year's job, to be honest with you.
Moving on over to RB, Gus Edwards is limited in practice on Wednesday, still recovering from the ankle injury, but he did go last week. Aaron Jones dealing with a rib issue. He had a limited practice on Wednesday. Christian McCaffrey is limited on Wednesday, still recovering from his calf/Achilles injury. Tanks Bigsby held out of practice on Wednesday, still recovering from the ankle injury. Marshawn Lord of the Green Bay Packers, he's still on the mend. He was the guy that we kind of saw as the 1B, depending on what happened with Jacobs, who is no stranger to injury, but Lloyd has been pretty much injured all year. And speaking of Jacobs, he's limited by a quad injury on Wednesday as well. Najee Harris didn't practice on Wednesday due to an ankle injury. Tyler Algier listed with a quad injury. Not exactly sure the level of that particular injury. Austin Eckler is returning to the backup role as Brian Robinson Jr. Got in a full practice and will be ready for week 11. So those of you guys that were riding the hot hand with Eckler will have to look a different direction as far as he is concerned, because Brian Robinson is the guy. If you were depending on an Eckler type of a situation, are there any guys that you would be looking on the waiver for that may trump Eckler, or do you still put him in that flex spot?
I like the kid Aldrick Estime. I hope I'm saying his last name. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
think he's someone to watch. I think he's somebody should be on your waiver list. This past week, I think there's going to be a change in the guard in that backfield. We've seen Javonte Williams, I think, only had like one carry, a couple carries. Aldrick ended up having like 13 to 14 carries. So I think that it's a transition in that backfield amongst. It's about
Estime had 45% of the snaps, 29% was to Williams.
you look
They had
carry
14 carries.
right.
Williams had 3. So a little bit of a change there.
Right. So I would go with a kid like that over Eckler.
And that got past me. So I'm glad that you just mentioned that, because there's definitely a changing of the guard there. And because he wasn't drafted highly, this is a guy that may still be available on several waiver wires, especially if you're talking about redraft and you just kind of need a guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a guy that, as you speak, I am checking to see where he's available. And yeah, I mean, normally when a change that drastic takes place, although they may have not come out and said this is our new guy, the proof is in the pudding. 14-3.
Yeah. The writing's on the wall.
That's an issue, is how I put that. Wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
DK Metcalf, full practice on Wednesday. Jonathan Mingo expected to debut with the Cowboys in week 11. Josh Reynolds returned to practice. Tyreek Hill misses Wednesday's practice, still dealing with that wrist injury. Juju Smith-Schuster is limited in his return to practice, dealing with a hamstring. Brian Thomas Jr. limited in practice, still dealing with that chest injury. Gabe Davis still nursing his shoulder. T. Higgins listed as a limited participant, still dealing with a quad injury. Devonta Smith is clear for Week 11. He doesn't seem to have any lingering issues going on from his hamstring. Michael Pittman Jr. estimated as a full participant. He was dealing with that back injury. Keon Coleman, he set out the first practice of Week 11, still dealing with the wrist injury. We'll see how that goes. Amari Cooper, limited practice. He was dealing with a wrist injury as well, but it looks like he should be good to go. Devonta Adams missed practice due to an illness as well as a wrist injury, so we'll have to see that how that goes. Nico Collins is right now slated to play in Week 11. He came off of IR last week, dealing with a hamstring injury. So that's where we are as far as wide receivers are concerned. And let's move on over to tight ends before we get into our rapid fire 10 quick questions, 10 quick answers on who should I start. Tight ends. Noah Fant didn't practice on Wednesday. Josh Oliver limited on Wednesday, which lends itself to TJ Hawkinson even being more of a target as far as this week is concerned. Hunter Henry, limited by a foot issue. Isaiah Likely, he returned to practice. So, as far as Likely is concerned, how do you feel about Likely being back in and what that does for Andrews?
Yeah, well, it definitely takes it can, because I mean, there's been some games where Likely been healthy, he still haven't got a target or two. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a boost for the offense as a whole. The tight end thing is so chopped up. I think Andrews has worked his way back in shape. Um, Also, maybe coming off an injury from last year. I just think the early part of the season he was kind of getting back in the groove. But it seems like he's the red zone guy at this point. He's kind of back to his old self in the offense. So I still like Andrews the same, whether Likely is there or not. I think Likely gonna get some opportunities, and he's gonna probably catch a ball and run a big touchdown, something like that. But I'm still fighting up Andrews if I had to choose between the two.
And it looks like Kittle's going to be good to go for the week. Um, Dallas Goedert plays on Thursday. It looks like he's going to be good to go for the week. He was coming off of an injury. He was able to make it through the game. There hasn't been any lasting effects. Not a whole lot else going on as far as tight end is concerned. So let's go ahead and get over to rapid fire 10 before we go ahead and answer your questions for the week in the mailbag. We have a lot going on in the mailbag this week, from who should I start to who should I trade, who should I not trade. A lot going on there. So we'll get to all of the questions in the mailbag, but let's go ahead and start out with our rapid fire 10 quick questions, 10 quick answers. Who should I start? What we got, young Vander?
All right, we got Russell Wilson or Anthony Richardson.
I'm a roll with Russ. I know he doesn't run the ball very much, but he's definitely an effective passer, and it's looking like this is a great offense for him to perform in. It feels like he's back in Seattle almost as far as his performance is concerned. So I'm a roll with Russ.
We got Tua Tagovailoa or Russell Wilson.
Okay. I love Tua right now as long as he's healthy. I don't like his playoff schedule. If you have Tua and he's healthy and puts up numbers for another week or two, trade him. You can trade him for a lesser quarterback with a much better schedule in the playoffs, or you can trade him for a come up if someone is willing to do so.
Mhm.
But his playoff schedule is murderer's row. So I'm going to start him this week over Russ, but I am going to be looking to get rid of him. Prior to, and a lot of people's deadlines are coming up soon, so you might have to get rid of him sooner than later.
We got Aldrich Estime. I hope I'm saying that wrong. Right. Or Nick Chubb.
Interesting. I see why you're asking the question that you're asking, and I'm going to go with Aldrich. Ford's going to be back in fold this week. He'll be back from his injury. And I don't believe that Cleveland is in such a place that it makes sense to run the guy into the ground that they recently paid and has more time on his contract. So I believe he'll be splitting carries with Ford. And right now, Estime seems to be the guy. He got the lion's share of the carry. So give me him.
All right, we got Travis Etienne or Brian Robinson Jr.
Brian Robinson. I'm confident. I love that offense. I love what he is in that offense. I don't know for 100% certain that ETN is still the starter on his own team. So,
well, Bigsby did leave the game with an ankle injury last week, so it's possible that he could be the full guy this week.
He did, but Estime is the guy regardless of who's hurt or not hurt. And the fact that Mac Jones is in there, we know that for sure. I'm not worried about Mac Jones if I'm the defense. I'm going to key in on ETN. And ETN hasn't showed the capability to be able to usurp the defense keying in on him as of late.
All right. We got George Pickens or Tyreek Hill.
If Tyreek goes, you got to start him. Like, if he's in the game, you got to start him because he can make your week in one play. But Pickens has a little bit of that as well. I can't see drafting Hill and knowing the extent of his talent and not starting him if he's in the game. So I'm gonna go that direction. But I definitely understand the question.
All right, again in the fire with George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb.
Pickens. And it's not because of the talent between the two. It's because of who's throwing the ball. And I don't know that Rush is someone that I feel that confident in where I'm not going to pivot that direction. I'll put it that way.
Okay, we got DeAndre Hopkins or Brian Thomas Jr.
Hopkins. Until Trevor is back, I don't trust any of the pass catchers there with Mac Jones at QB.
All right, we got Sam Laporta or Zach Ertz.
Believe it or not, okay, let me put it this way. If based on your matchup, it's indicating that you should win, I'm going to go with Ertz because he has the higher floor. If you need someone that could help you win your week, boom or bust type, I'm going with Sam Laporta. And it's just because there's so many miles to feed in Detroit, so many ways that they can win, that they haven't depended on Sam the way they did last year. So give me Ertz, who has been picture perfect as far as consistency is concerned, versus giving me Laporta, who, if they happen to lean on him this week, could possibly win you your week. It's just going to depend on where I'm slated. If it's showing that I'm supposed to lose this week by 10, 15, 20 points, give me a guy that can get that many in 1 week. Outside of that, if I need to hold it in the road, give me Zach.
Now we got Kevin Ridley or from Andre Stevenson.
Ridley. They finally figured out that he's the best wide receiver, and they're targeting him as such.
And last but not least, uh, we got Cam Akers or Tank Dell.
Give me Tank. I believe that for Tank, his job becomes easier this week with Nico Collins returning. Tank's been putting up points going up against number one corners. It was different when it was Nico and Stephon Diggs. But now that Tank is basically returning to the position that he was in on last year when he broke out, going up against the number two corners that cannot guard him. The number one corners had hard enough time trying to guard him. So give me Tank.
All right, so that concludes the rapid fire.
All righty. So let's hop right into the mailbag. First question up. Kenneth Walker. Owners, how are we feeling rest of the season?
Kenneth Walker for the rest of the season?
Yep.
Let's see what they got.
And I know you're looking at the schedule.
I like him. I like him for the rest of the season. I think he was one of the guys that had one of the easier schedules going down the pipe, to be honest with you. So I like him going further. Yeah, I like him.
Who wins? I send Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. I receive Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, and Mark Andrews. And this is a one second here. This is a 1 QB redraft league. And it doesn't tell me who his current tight ends are.
I think I'm a keep. I think I'll keep Hurts and AJ Brown. I mean, because AJ, don't get me wrong, and Jordan Love is a good quarterback. He looks good, but Hurts has that rushing upside. That thing is kind of clicking again. Early in the season, it wasn't going so well, but the tush push now is working. We just see him run for 3 touchdowns in one game using that thing, right? A few weeks ago. So I think he have a higher ceiling at the quarterback position. And as far as the wide receivers is concerned, I know it's Jettas, but AJ Brown has better chemistry with Hurts than I think Jettas may have with Darnold. As far as the tight end is concerned, who cares? I mean, tight end is really not a factor this season. So I'm going to stay with Hurts. I think you're losing that trade. I think I would keep Hurts and AJ. If it's a 2 quarterback league, we'd be talking about something totally different.
Agreed. That's why I'm glad that they left a little bit of context there, because that would make that answering that question a whole lot more difficult.
Right.
Tua or Knicks this week?
Bo
they
Nix.
were leaning towards Knicks.
Yeah, Bo Nix.
Okay.
Bo Nix is a buy right now. I think he's a buy moving forward.
A guy offered me, interesting. A guy offered me Jaden Daniels for Knicks. And the guy that made the offer currently has Sutton. So he's looking to do like a stack between Knicks and Sutton. What the information that I don't have is if this is a dynasty redraft, etc.
I see why that this is a thing. And honestly, I like Jaden Daniels better, but I think as far as fantasy is concerned, if it's a redraft, Knicks have the more favorable schedule.
Okay.
If you look at Jaden Daniels, week 15, he got New Orleans. Week 16, he got Philadelphia. And if you look at a guy like Knicks, week 15, he has the Colts. In week 16, he had the Chargers. And if he does make it to the finals, Cincinnati in week 17. So I just think he has an easier schedule, easier playoff schedule. So I see why it's a thing. So
Interesting question here. Is it worth dropping Tank Bixby for estimate?
yeah, yeah, I think so. Reason being, I know Bigsby has been playing well, but now ETN is back. Seems like he's healthy. If he is healthy, it's a complete split. Not just that, they have a horrible schedule going down the pipe. So for that reason, I would say, yeah, I'm cool with it.
This one just kind of hurts. I'm gonna be honest with you. With Richardson returning, do you drop Downs for Juju Smith-Schuster, who should be back in fold with Kansas City this week?
No,
The
I
fact
get
that
it. I understand it.
that's just well because Juju had a pretty good game and then he got hurt. Downs, the only above average games that he's had consistently has been with Flacco, and Flacco's sitting on the bench now. So I guess if you're looking at a upside play and you think that Juju can kind of have what he had before he got hurt with Kansas City, but also keeping in mind that that was before DeAndre Hopkins got there
Right,
too.
right,
So there's some other things that are going on there that weren't going on when Juju originally came back. So
right. So
I,
that's the answer. I mean, yeah, he has the better quarterback, but there's way more miles to feed in Kansas City. Downs is arguably the best receiver. I mean, Pittman hasn't really been doing much. I mean, he's arguably the number one. So no, I'm gonna stay with Downs over Juju for sure.
this is a dynasty league trade question. Should I trade away Kittle for Kelsey straight up in a full PPR dynasty league?
No,
Kelsey might only have if they three-peat, I don't think Kelsey comes back. Humble opinion. There's nothing
no,
else to do. There's nothing else to win.
yeah, I'm staying with Kelsey.
No. So it said, should I trade away
I mean,
Kittle?
no, I'm staying with Kittle. I'm sorry.
Okay. I need a flex. Pick one out of these three for full PPR. Jerry Judy, Quentin Johnston, Brian Robinson. That's an easy one for me.
Who? I'm going Brian Robinson.
Me too. That wasn't a very hard one for me.
Yeah,
The running back for Washington will get minimally 2 goal line carries every week.
yeah. Give me Brian Robinson.
Would you trade Bowers and Jordan Addison for Devontae? No, absolutely not.
Mm.
No, I don't even. No, what are you doing? Jordan Addison has been putting up more points than Devontae Adams by himself, and you got to give up Bowers and Addison? No. Do you see it differently?
No, I wouldn't do it.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what that was all about. Let's see. I give up Collins, so Nico Collins and David Montgomery.
Damn, what's he getting?
This is weird. I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there because they asked, but this is just weird. I received Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brees Hall, and Mark Andrews.
No,
I don't understand. Like Montgomery and Brees Hall currently are on the same trajectory as far as points are concerned. Hall does have a better playoff schedule, And
He does have a more favorable playoff schedule. But the thing about Brees Hall is even in the easy games, he still hasn't been doing much. He has had some favorable matchups all these past couple of weeks, and he still hasn't turned it over, to something great. So I mean, I get it. You looking ahead, the playoff schedule looks good, but he hasn't been playing well in the games that's good now. So
yeah,
I
true.
mean, I don't know. I know I want about Montgomery. Chances are he's gonna fall in the end zone every game.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think he didn't probably
Nico
score in
Collins,
every.
number
I
one
think
wide
he
receiver
scored in
until he
every
got
game
hurt.
this season, is probably except one or something like that. So I mean, nah. And with Nico, no, nah.
This is a full PPR redraft trade question. Kenneth Walker, Calvin Ridley being traded for CD Lamb and Lad McConkey. Again, this is a PPR redraft league.
I'm
Which
I'm
way
I'm,
do
I'm
you go?
staying on the side with Lamb and
McConkey?
no, not Lamb. I mean, what's the first two you said?
Walker and Ridley or Lamb and McConkey?
Ridley and who?
Walker, Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I'm staying with them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm staying with those guys.
Uh, this is just for week 11, full PPR. Do I roll with Scary Terry or DK Metcalf?
Metcalf.
Okay. Uh, Trade question: 1 for 1, and it doesn't say if it's a redraft or keeper or dynasty. It doesn't give that information, but CD Lamb for Drake London. And does it change depending on the type of league for you?
Oh man. I may stay with Lamb.
I was thinking in dynasty, I stick with Lamb. In a redraft, I can see the logic behind possibly choosing London
Yeah.
just based on the QB situation. But if it's a dynasty, it's not even close unless I am in a win now mode and most of the rest of my team won't be doing very much in years to come. And I'm trying to get that chip this year, and Lamb isn't going to help me do it. Because if you have them, you got to start them. So, and it would hurt tremendously in a dynasty league to move on from CeeDee Lamb. But Drake London is a younger wide receiver, and he is building his um, camaraderie and his relationship, if you will, with Kirk Cousins. But it may be 2 years down the road that Kirk Cousins is no longer there, and we're hoping that Drake London and Mike Penix Jr. is on the same page. So, Dynasty, I would probably stick with Lamb. Redraft, I can understand going London's direction. And the last question, they want to get Tillman from the Browns, and they're stacked at running back, and they're asking, what running back would you give up? Oh, this is this is a bit asinine for me because two of the running backs in question, you should not even think about giving up. I don't care how bad your wide receivers look, but I'm gonna put it out there anyway because you asked, we'll answer it. Tillman of the Browns, what wide receiver would you give up? Taylor, Chubb, Barkley, Hunt.
What kind of question is this?
I don't
Give
know.
up Chubb.
There are really only two running backs on this list
Give up Chubb.
for Tillman. And the only reason I'm even thinking about Hunt is because IGL Pacheco is now projected to come back within the next week or two, and I don't know what kind of a workload Hunt will have.
I don't
But
care. I'm doing the
you
chub.
would really, there must be a different Barkley in the league other than Saquon if you're talking about giving him up for Tillman.
What's to my
There
Charles
must
Barkley?
be a different Taylor than the one that I'm thinking about if you're talking about giving him up for like
What's to my Liz Taylor?
that. That's like what? Like what? What?
Nah, man.
There gotta be wide receivers on the waiver right now that are worth picking up before you give up Barkley or Taylor for Tillman. Like, don't please don't get caught up in 1 week and sell yourself on 1 week for this. Don't do that. Please don't do that. And I'm assuming that you may be a little bit, you got to be a little bit new to the game, and that's okay. Don't take offense to the way we're going about answering this question, but yeah, it ain't close. And this would definitely, well, actually, let me ask it this way because they don't say if it was a dynasty league, and we know how quickly running back can kind of be moved out to pasture. We know the injury history of Barkley. We know it's not Hunt's job. We know the injury that Chubb just came back off of. And again, as far as Taylor is concerned, we know how age affects running backs, etc. And Tillman is just kind of coming into his own. And now he is the number one wide receiver with Cooper being sent over to Buffalo. Does that make the question a little bit more palatable in a dynasty situation? Or are we still only looking at Chubb or Hunt and
It's
you
just
might want
chub.
to get some picks or something with it too?
I don't care if it's dynasty. I don't care what it's redraft. It's chub. Trade chub.
Okay.
Just get rid
Okay.
of chub, bro.
And actually, there's one other question. I apologize. Goddard or Knox if Kincaid is out?
I will look at the matchup and see who gives up the most of the tight end. But I'm gonna go Goddard. To be honest with you.
If Goddard is healthy, I'm playing him as
Yeah.
far as tight end is concerned. He's he's been one of the only tight ends that has been consistent as long as he's healthy. The only thing that makes him inconsistent is that you can't play him every week. So I'm definitely going Goddard over Knox, um, regardless of the defense. We've seen games where Knox is just completely non-existent. I can't think of very many games where, regardless of what wide receivers were in play, that Goddard wasn't still a focal point of the Eagles' offense. So I definitely have to go Goddard here. And that pretty much wraps it up for the evening. On next week, we're going to be going a little bit further forward, if you will, talking a bit about what you can expect in the playoffs. For many teams, your regular season will only go up through week 14. However, your trade deadline may be fastly approaching, and for many, most trade deadlines, unless we're talking about a dynasty where there isn't one, is going to be on Thanksgiving. So we'll kind of look a little bit further ahead as far as that's concerned and let you know who you may want to go ahead and stash as far as maybe defenses are concerned. There'll be some running backs, wide receivers based on schedule that you may want to make that last ditch effort to trade for. But we'll kind of be able to go from there. For this evening, we are done, and make sure that you always remember to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. We out.